Are you hiking the entire PCT?
Yeah, we started, well, I'll tell you, yeah, we started in Campo on March 18th. We're a little older, so I'm 62, my wife is 61. Um, we about finished Oregon, and then they closed the Etna section. And then we looked at Oregon, and it was smoke and closures. So we flipped up to Washington. Um, I'm not sure if I'm going to go back and hike Oregon after we get to Washington in early September. I'll just have to see how things look.
I started in April 24th and I finished in September 16th with my son in 2014. I did the PCT. Yeah, we didn't have
Oh,
any fire breaks or anything, so we did the whole thing. I did. So, yeah, you have a challenge there with the fires this year.
yeah. I mean, I didn't want to. I, the PCT is so good for your health on so many levels, but you really can't win if you're breathing in smoke. And so um,
No,
that was kind
no.
of a.
I was 64 when I did it. I'm
Oh, wow.
72 now. Yeah, so good for you. You're 62. Actually, my hiking partner, Handbrake, he was 62 too at the time. He's from Sisters, Oregon. He's another hiking partner I had. So 62, and that's a good for you for your health. And
Yeah.
there, how did you come upon doing the PCT? What made you do it? And your wife?
Well, I mean, a couple of things. One, we're pretty adventurous. We're from Alaska, so we live in a cabin out in Alaska, and we're pretty adventurous people. I would say we like to hike, we like the outdoors, but then you combine that with the fact we resented getting old, and we wanted a grand adventure. I think to help. I did anyway. A grand adventure to help restore my health. I was pudgy, overweight, and I didn't feel good physically or mentally. And oftentimes, the way I deal with that is to do something extreme. And this was definitely something extreme to do. And, also we had the COVID lockdown that kind of created some doldrums. And, we just had this desire to get out and do something. And we hit upon the idea of the PCT year, trained for it, and then made it happen.
That's so cool. So what has it been what you thought it would be or
Um, it's a mixed bag. On the one hand, we've ran into some incredible people. Um, we've gone through some beautiful country. Other times it seems like it's a little crowded. In California, it seemed like you could never quite get that wilderness. You could hear jets flying over the military exercises or even highways. Right now we're in a huge bubble of people, and majority of them are really nice. That's not the problem. It's just trying to find a camp spot sometimes, and I don't think you necessarily do the PCT to find solace. Maybe if you're going southbound, but northbound this year, I don't think you find much solace and quiet and peace. There seems to always be a lot of people around.
well you should have done it in the 1970s or 80s when nobody was around. Or before the Wild book came out, in the movie. Even in 2014 it was pretty we didn't have the staggered starts, etc. We didn't have that many people on there.
Yeah, I think it would have been a different feel, especially because you'd have had to been a little. Now everyone uses, and I use it, the Far Out app, which helps you identify where water is and where everything is, and you get reports in real time, and that makes it easier, I think. And having to rely on maps and other modes of determining where water is, in like you did in the 70s, that would have been challenging.
I thought if I did it again, I wouldn't do it with an app. I just see what I could do with navigate myself somehow, like the pioneers. What did they have?
Yeah.
Did you, how about the nature part of it? Did you have any experiences with nature that you like to share? Any stories with being out there?
Yeah, I mean, at the Whitewater River, I think the most exciting thing that happened is we were sitting down one day getting ready to camp, really, in an old riverbed. And we're getting ready to camp. And all of a sudden, this big rattlesnake crawled out of the rocks and set up camp right underneath my wife's pack. And she came moving toward me, rather alarmed. And anyway, this big rattlesnake just curled up right under her pack. And we didn't know what to do. So we kind of packed up our stuff because we didn't want to we knew it was going to move somehow. So we didn't want it to go find another place in our gear to rest. And so we packed up our gear and then we moved the backpack and the snake just slithered off across the rocks. It never rattled or anything. We've had our experiences with hail and rain and a few mosquitoes. Nothing life-threatening. We've seen a few bears out of Bernie area, black bears along the trail, but we're from Alaska, so we're really conservative. We still carry our bear canisters just because we don't want to have any interaction with bears, any negative interaction. So people question us about that, but that's just our preference.
Well, how did you end up in Kerry Lake, Alaska, a little town like that?
Oh, Kenny Lake? Well,
The Kenny Lake, yeah.
I guided fishermen when I was in college, and I knew once I landed, John Muir said, if you go to Alaska as a young man, you'll never want to go anywhere else, so it'll ruin you. And that was kind of true. So once I landed in the Bristol Bay region when I was like 21 or 22, I knew I was going to come back to Alaska. I loved river running, and I chose the Copper Basin area because there's about 8 rivers within 100 miles of my cabin that I can run without a permit. And I also live on the edge of Wrangell St. Elias National Park, which is, the largest national park in the country. The remoteness of it all, that's what I guess it was a pretty deliberate decision to move there.
Are you familiar with Trapper Creek?
I am, yeah. That's on the Parks Highway, yeah.
Parks Highway. We were up there prospecting a few years ago, up Petersville Road. We didn't find a lot, but we spent a couple weeks up there. We got about an ounce, little vial of gold. And my partner, he had been up there I think it was the 80s or 90s, and there you could just pick up nuggets along the creek up there, but it had been mined out. But we had some good times up there, Trapper Creek and Petersville Road. It was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been on Petersville Road a little bit, floating for an access point to what's called, the Deshgun Croto Creek rivers out there. So.
Has the murder mystery been solved at all yet? Those 3 murders with the Jenkins and Francis and all that. Have you heard about that?
The murder mystery?
Yeah, there was a murder there way back in the 30s or 40s, I think. Yeah, they had a conflict between the mining claims, 2 prospectors, and somehow 2 people and a woman got murdered up there, and they never solved the mystery.
Well, there's been murders up in McCarthy, Alaska, and then they always make movies about some of the weird stuff in Alaska. The next movie they're making is about Timothy. Oh, I forget his last name. What?
Treadwell.
Yeah, Timothy Treadwell getting eaten by a bear in Katmai. So they always Hollywood always chooses the mysteries or the innocents who come up here and get destroyed by nature. And I get kind of tired of the Hollywood movies and how they try to portray it. But there's a lot of smart people, and the native culture up here is pretty vibrant. And there's 1,000 other things they could make a movie about, but they always seem to go for the lowest common denominator.
Well, it's the phenomenon. They're playing off the phenomenon idea. Yeah. So
Yeah.
did you begin the Copper River Native Association? Did you start that or just involved in it?
No, no. Where did you find that information? Oh, you went
That was
to
on your
my,
Facebook. That's where I get all this
oh yeah.
information. Yeah.
No, I was um, my wife and I were teachers. I taught for 25 years and then retired. And then um, I started my own little business and during COVID, I wrote grants for Copper River Native Association and I made publications and now I'm getting more and more into the videography. So I made videos for them and, I'm hoping to make a video of this, our trip here.
Oh, cool.
Everybody does a vlog. And so I want to craft something special, um, on the PCT and maybe, I haven't quite got my angle worked out. Part of it is, what it's like to be an older person on the trail and not, not giving up on life, and having one last hurrah. Teddy Roosevelt said before he went to Africa, he wanted to be a boy again. I think that kind of sums up my feelings. I wanted to be a boy again. I wanted to see if I had any you know, badass left in the tank. And I found out I did have a little bit, I'm hoping to craft a nice video that people will enjoy
Cool.
watching.
So you're taking a lot of shots, a lot
Yeah.
of footage.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge meditation as you're walking on the trail. You walk for 10, 12 hours a day and you can have one single thought and you can follow that thought wherever it goes and develop it any
Right.
way you want. And that's kind of the beauty of the trail is you can reduce life down to one or two questions a day,
Yeah,
and,
I
and
know.
your concerns are very few.
Unfortunately, my thoughts were, the next hamburger and milkshake in the next town stop. The thoughts kept going to
Yeah.
those. But so you're holding up okay? You and your wife, your health, and your no injuries or anything, or
We're both, yeah, we're holding up okay. We're, we're doing, we decided in Washington, we see a lot of the young people who hike 30 miles a day. They just zip right past us and that's great.
yeah,
That's great. That's their more power to them. We're staying at 20 miles a day. And if we want to take a swim in a lake, we'll do it. If we want to go play underneath a waterfall, we'll do it. So that's been the strategy. We started out doing 10 miles a day and, people zip past us, but a lot of them got injured and got off the trail. We just were, now I think we have our trail legs. And I mean, we look forward to at least, getting through Washington. We'll have done over 2,000 miles by the time we get back to Hart's Pass. So we feel successful. If we don't do Oregon this year, maybe next year.
is this the longest hike you've ever done?
Yeah, it really is. We hiked in Resurrection Pass in Alaska. We used to go up there yearly, and that was like a 40-mile trip.
Yeah, I had done 5 days of backpacking before I did this, so it was pretty brutal on me, but I never had an intent of quitting. I mean, it was all or nothing basically, but it was life changing for me. That's why I'm doing these interviews here. I want to promote hikers and the environment, you know,
Yeah,
because the planet's not doing well. So I want to help people see there's more going on that they could become aware of and to see, if they want to somehow assist and contribute to the planet in some way, in their own way. And you living up there in Alaska, you see more wilderness and it's more pristine up there, imagine. Um, you get a lot of snow, so you're comfortable with the snow up there in Washington. Have you gotten any, or how was the Sierras with the snow and all that?
It really wasn't bad. We didn't need our ice axes when we went through in June. We needed our cleats once in a while, but the thing is last year we had a lot of snow at our home in Alaska, and so we were actually training. We were trying to walk as much as we could, so we were snowshoeing and training with snow, and the snow wasn't a problem. On April 22nd, it snowed. I was kind of happy. It was just reminded me of home, and everybody thought it was, they thought it was a serious event. We woke up with 6 inches of snow on our tent, and there were a bunch of people camped around there, and it was pretty funny to see their reaction. They kept asking us. They knew we were Alaskans. They kept asking us for advice, like somehow we possessed some great insight as to what to do. But it was actually just a beautiful couple of days to hike through the snow after that. I don't know. I don't get bothered by the snow. The mosquitoes haven't been bad in Washington. Some people, have been complaining about them, but on a scale of 1 to 10 of what I've seen, they've been like a 2 or 3 so far.
Cool. River crossings? Yeah. Any treacherous ones there?
No, I think the only worst one was near Adams. I don't know if it's Adams Creek, but it was near Mount Adams. And, I've done a lot of glacier river crossings in Alaska. So I just thought, I'm not going to go across on a log. I didn't want to especially fall upstream of the log. And I didn't, feel that sure-footed with my pack and crossing a wet log. So I just kind of looked where the water seemed to be shallow. I just, from river running, I can kind of read water. And so you can tell where it's riffly. And even though it was fast, it wasn't very deep. It might've been 6 inches deep. And so I crossed in that place, and that was no problem. I haven't run into any river crossings that have made me worried. My biggest fear, honestly, I'm not trying to be like a tough guy, like I know everything, but the river crossings didn't bug me. What I was worried about early on was I was going to die in the desert, because I didn't think I could handle heat very well. So the first 700 miles I would get through it, because I tend to when I started this trip, my most comfortable hiking temperature was like 40 degrees. I liked hiking at 40 degrees. Got above 60, I thought I was going to, but what happened is I lost a lot of weight. I lost 35 pounds. And by the time I got to Northern California, the heat was burdensome, but it didn't bother me as much, as it would have in the earlier days. So that was my biggest fear, was dying in the desert.
How about your wife?
What's the question?
What was her biggest fear or challenge?
What was her biggest fear?
Yeah, or challenge?
I think my biggest fear when we started was the altitude in the Sierras.
She said the altitude in the Sierras. She seemed to handle that really well, because I remember when we went up Whitney, she was ahead of me, and I was going really slow up Whitney.
Yeah, Whitney, I was fine, but then I got sick in Bishop, and it seemed like I don't know if I had COVID or what I had, but it seemed like the altitude
we either got
hard after that.
We either got mild case of COVID or norovirus in Bishop, and we had to go back up Kearsarge Pass, and that was a pain. But after a few days, everything cleared up. So there were a lot of cases of COVID along the trail that a lot of hikers coughing, and some of the hostels had to close down for periods of time, so we heard a lot of tales of people who contracted COVID.
I climbed Whitney. I had trouble after that too, and I spent 3 days in Bishop because I couldn't urinate. I had a urinary tract infection. I was dehydrated, and one other thing, and I had to wear a bag for 3 days. But fortunately, I took it off, and then I was able to continue. But
that was after Whitney.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I started hiking out Bishop Pass, and I turned back. I just couldn't I wasn't good at work, so I had to go to the medical facility there, and I wore a bag, because I just couldn't urinate. Nothing came out.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, my prostate was just too inflamed, swollen. But
Huh.
after 3 days, it went down, and I rehydrated, and it was okay.
Huh. Well,
That was
that's,
that was my major. That was the major thing that I had. Other than that, I didn't have any blisters. I mean, I had one little hot spot and things that normally hikers do. I mean, it was torture. It was like, it was hard, but I didn't physically, I made it through other than that incident.
yeah.
Uh, so any characters you met along the way? Interesting characters? People?
Um,
You always, I know there's people along the trail that are out there.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, we met some really nice people. I probably shouldn't give the name, but there was a guy a so-called trail angel, maybe a trail mercenary, who picked us up um, in the desert, and he well, he was obviously drinking, and then the ride to the place where we were staying, where we were resupplying, was only a couple of miles, and it was pretty straight road, and he yeah, I mean, and then the next day he gave us a ride back to the trail, and he was backing up his vehicle, and he hit a galvanized fence, backing up. And the owner wasn't too happy. It was a brand new fence, and he hit the first pole. And the way that works is all the fences tied to all the poles. So when he hit the first pole, all six bent.
Domino
You
effect.
know,
Uh-huh.
yeah. When he was backing up, and then he was in his, I don't know, he was probably in his 40s, and he was talking to me about how America was losing its freedom, and how he was pretty racist, I guess I should say. But what it struck me as is a lot of Americans, they don't realize all the handcuffs they put on themselves. They think freedom is something controlled by others, but oftentimes, people who are slaves to drinking and alcohol and wacko theories, they're just they're enslaved as some guy behind bars. One of the things I did, this probably, one of the things I did 8 years ago, I quit drinking, and because I wanted to live healthy. And so that made a huge difference in my life. I started doing more physical activity, and I didn't need to drink. And I think that's strength. You want to unshackle yourself from some of those habits that might be limiting you.
That's why with simple lifestyle and hiking is kind of, it shows you there's other alternatives for you. You don't have to go back to the habits and routines you've had before.
Yeah, I mean, I worked for a health organization, and I think sometimes we abdicate our health concerns to professionals. We deal with, dietitians and wellness and behavioral health and all these things. We look for cures and medicines. And I think, a big part, if you want to be healthy, is you got to take control of your destiny. And hiking has been my psychiatrist. It's been my wellness director. It's been my dietitian, my blood, my pulse, my resting pulse. I've got to watch it. When I'm sleeping, it's been down to 40. Now my regular pulse in the morning is 55. I've lost weight. I feel like, my mind is cleared up. It's sharper. So, Henry David Thoreau said, "In wildness is the preservation of the world." And I kind of believe that true too. If people were to pursue more rigorous outdoor activities, there would be fewer health concerns, not as much diabetes, not as much mental anguish, and certainly a lot of better things for cardiovascular health, if people just did what's simple. And that's the beauty of hiking, is you don't need to have a lot of money to do it. You just need a pair of shoes and something to walk toward.
Grandma Gatewood, a duffel bag and PF flyers, you know.
Yeah.
And Henry Thoreau,
Yeah. I like,
and John Muir I guess he just took a blanket and some bread, you know. I mean, he didn't have a lot either.
yeah, I like those old school people. I admire people like that, you know, the old school.
So you lost 30 pounds? Have you regained any, or just are you staying about that weight now?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've reached the point where I'm not going to lose any more weight. And, you know, my question when I return home is how do I maintain that new change? But I don't feel like I'm getting any stronger. So now, I mean, I feel strong. I feel great, but I don't think I'm improving any. But it's still not particularly hard to go up passes and all that stuff, depending on my mood and my day. But yeah, I got down 35 pounds, and it
Wow.
was really, and I got into a size. And one of the things I did is I went into South Lake Tahoe. Maybe it was a moment of vanity, but I wanted to see if I could fit into a size 32 pants. So I
Mm.
went into a store. Lo and behold, I could put them on. And I mean, they weren't, you know, looked like something John Travolta would have worn, but I was able to get into them. I didn't buy them. I don't know how long that would last, but yeah, that was kind of my moment. And tried my best to, you know, I'll try my best to stay healthy. But yeah, I've been able to keep the weight off because we're hiking 20 miles a day.
You know, you heard of Manny on trail?
Yeah.
Yeah, he left because he was concerned about his weight. He couldn't keep it up. He couldn't eat enough or have enough energy. But he's back on trail now. But I guess he readjusted things.
Yeah. You know, we've been bringing dehydrated food for dinner, and then I'm like 5 bars a day, and then a bag of, you know, then Gorp, and then sometimes throwing a jar of peanut butter in there seems to help. That helps with the hiker hunger. And then we pretty much most we are out on the trail is 5 days. So it's just somebody once said, I remember watching somebody, they said it's like a series of 5 day backpacking trips. And I kind of like that analogy because that's about how long we spend on the trail before we hit town. And then we take a Nero or a Zero rest.
What would you do different if you were going to do it again? Or everything's pretty smoothed out and routine the way you like it now? Or would you do anything different? Any different gear or different food, diets, or any different attitudes? Or
Huh. You know, I was thinking about, I might, when I get home, I want to experiment and make my own bars, you know, because I was thinking of the thousands of dollars I probably spent in bars.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then shoes, you know, that's like another $1,000 there. So I'm always thinking of the finances just because I like to play around with numbers in my head. Um, no, I think, you know, I think we kind of figured it out early on, and I've been, you know, like the one piece of gear that's most surprising is my air mattress, my, what is it? Neo X Therm. You know, I mean, I don't use the bag. I blow it up with my mouth, and it hasn't gotten a hole or anything. Things been
Wow.
really tough.
Oh, everybody does, but you haven't.
Yeah.
Neo Air, is that the yellow one?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Uh-huh.
haven't got a single hole or anything. It's the gray one.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really been, you know, workhorse. You know, my pack's been good. You know, I don't know what I would do different. I think our plan was just to not, I mean, that's the way we've always been. We never really pay attention to what other people are doing or their thoughts or opinions. But
I would skip San Jacinto.
oh,
She would skip it?
yeah, there's a lot of blowdown. So we might maybe have figured out a way around that. That was kind of grueling, but No, I think you just learn as you go. We don't have any regrets or anything like that. It beats. I've kind of, I kind of enjoyed living in the dirt, and when winter comes, we'll be really glad we've done it. When we look at our videos and pictures, we'll be really happy that we did this. You're always worried that things will implode around you with your families, but our kids kept it together, and our family, is still, everything, nothing tragic has happened, which can pull people off the trail. So the timing was pretty good, I think. So we're pretty happy with our decision.
When do you think you'll finish?
Yeah, I was just mapping that out. It looks like we'll be back, get to the border around September 5th.
Oh, coming
is
up.
what I'm thinking, and then back to Hart's Pass. Yeah, it's coming up pretty soon. We've got 70 miles to Skykomish, which will take a few days. We'll do a Nero there, then we're going to then it's a little over 100 miles to Stehekin, and then from there it's just you can maybe get off the trail before Hart's Pass, or I haven't really looked at it all, or you can just go to Hart's Pass and get off the trail, come back to Hart's Pass after you tag the border. So, if I decide to go to Oregon, fine, but I might go back to Alaska, and I usually go hunting in the fall for moose, and so.
You'll like Stehekin.
What's that?
You'll like Stehekin. That's a nice little stopover,
Oh, good. Yeah, they have bus service that goes into town, so I like that.
I remember there's this farmer there. He was a barefoot farmer, and he had all organic garden, and he used to sell it to the hikers. Really good, neat vegetables. I remember one hiker coming up to his peach tree, because he had fruit trees too, and the hiker touched it. He said, "No, don't touch it, don't touch it," because very particular farmer, because he didn't want to bruise, his peaches bruised. But
Wow.
I don't know if he's still there, but if he's still there, visit this farmer that during the warm season, he just walks around barefoot and does his farming, his land. It's along the road there.
I'd like that, because the first thing you crave is like a burger, like you said, when you're thinking about a burger, but then your body says, you should do something nice for us, like give us some vegetables and fruits.
The second thing is something fresh. Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's the one thing, your nutrition, you really need to. Well, right now we've got huckleberries along the trail in Washington, and those have been nice, and some raspberries and salmon berries. So those have been good to get some vitamin C. But yeah, I think our bodies crave vegetables. So I will definitely look for that farmer, and I won't defile his fruit in front of him. I'll wait for him to pick it.
Okay, one last question for both you and your wife. What have you become more aware of while you've been out there? What have you become more aware of?
Yeah, I think I'll let her think about it. I've become aware of how little I really need to be happy. To me, it's a joy reducing my life to the size of a backpack, and kind of thinking when I get home, I need to have a big garage sale, because like most Americans, I have way too much stuff, and it becomes a form of insecurity when you try to smother yourself with so much security, and material things. But I'm aware of how little you need to be happy in life. If you've got your health, and you've got clean air and clean water, and someone you love next to you, and there's really not much else. Kind of reduces being out on the trail reduces down what you need to be happy and content. And
yeah,
would you?
I don't speak as let him go.
Well,
when
you said garage sale, I remember remember going into wall mics?
Uh-huh.
Been to wall mics, like Walmart wall mics in
Yeah.
Trapper Creek.
Oh,
He's
I
like a. Have you ever been there?
I haven't been there,
Oh,
no.
okay. It's like everything, moose heads to old tires to anything you can imagine in Walmart, plus, Alaska style. I mean, his place is full of, it's like a huge garage sale and more. I just saw on Facebook, Sarah Palin just was there, took a picture with him over there.
Oh,
So,
boy.
and then, yeah, the comparison, that's what I get to. The comparisons are very important. So being out there and being back home, there's a quality there, a certain comparison. You can see how things are different, and from that you become more aware of how you can make better decisions. And when you do get back home, yeah, you can use those. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my wife, what was yours, too?
Oh, I don't speak as eloquently as you do, but realizing that I tend to hiking for me is like 80% psychological, and I tend to be a negative thinker, and I'm trying to be more positive because my negative thinking has a huge effect on my hiking, and I have really bad days, really good days. And Ray seems to have only good days, so I'm not sure why that happens, but also to simplify our lives, how simple we can be, like you said.
Okay. Well, what she said is she realizes that hiking is to try to what? To
I tend to be I tend to think negatively when things go wrong, and I'm trying to think more positively.
okay. And so she's trying to think more positively,
I've had
to
some really bad
not to
days.
default into negativity.
Yeah, I've had some really bad days where I've almost gotten off the trail a few times, and
Yeah.
Ray seems to just have positive days. So that's really hard on me, but so I'm trying to think more positive about things. I'm kind of a negative overthinker, and I think about negative things too much and ruminate on them, I think. You have a lot of time to think.
Yeah.
But and I tend to negatively think about my abilities, and I have to be more confident in myself because something goes wrong and I think, oh, this is it. But then usually I can get over it and keep going.
Were you able to hear any of that or not?
Yeah, I heard it all. Yeah. No, I see that. I mean, the trail kind of magnifies everything that you're thinking in a way because you have so much time on your hands. So, yeah, I can see that, but it also clears things away because you're kind of in a survival situation too. So a lot of times you don't have time to think, and so that's good too because it clears things away. And again, you can see the difference between the uselessness of worrying about things and then the importance of paying attention to your own survival and just paying attention to what's going on right now in front of you. There's a lot there available.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, when times are tough, I'm thinking I don't want to feel like an entitled person because, I mean, really, if you think about it, very fortunate to be out here hiking. There's some people who they're physically, there's just no way they're out of the game. And there's people in the world who live in terrible political situations and they're burdened by war or poverty and there's no way they can do it, and so I realize I'm pretty lucky to be able to have this opportunity in my life to get out here. And then I think of most guys my age, this is another thing, that get most guys my age want to sit around and drink beer and watch television, and that doesn't excite me very much either, so I'm kind of glad to be out here. And then I know, in the winter, kind of forget about all the hardships and have a lot of good stories.
Right. Well, who's the oldest fella or person out there that you've met so far? Are you the oldest one?
Old goat.
I'm sure there's somebody more older, more.
Yeah, I think there are, and you don't see many people who have started at Mexico our age right now. I don't see very many. I don't know. There was a guy, Old Goat, and
Old Goat?
he's probably Old Goat. Yeah, he was 70. That's what's on his pack.
Not Billy
One
Goat.
of the favorite people I met, though, I should have mentioned, about characters. I just reminded was a guy named Haas, and Haas was from Florida, and he said, the reason I got the trail name Haas is because he said I'm big, dumb, and affable, but he wasn't dumb or anything like that. He was big, and he was so slow, and he never gave up. As far as I know, he wanted to climb Mount Whitney. I think that's what was his dream was. So we passed him at some point, but just loved talking to him. One time he camped in a dry stream bed, and then it rained and he got all wet. And he said, the low point of my life was when this 3-year-old kid passed me. But he never gave up, and I thought he was overweight. He's from Florida, but he had the right attitude. And I respected him a lot. I think everybody respected him. Maybe he wasn't pulling 20s or 30s or anything, but he didn't give up. He decided to get on the trail despite the odds and probably, the negative voices in his head. And for me, I wish I'd gotten a picture of him because I really liked him. I thought he was a great guy. Just the way he was so transparent and told us about his fears, and the fact that he just did it. He got out there and he started hiking and didn't have all the answers, didn't have all the skills, but he just went and did it. And in Alaska, we kind of admire people like that who just go out and do it instead of, thinking it over, overthinking it too much. So.
Yeah, include those kind of people in your documentary, your final video, if you can. Yeah, be interesting. It's always interesting.
Yeah. That's the attitude I like, just people who don't have it all together and they just decide I'm going to do it. And a lot of people out here, they quit their jobs. They left the comforts of home. A lot of people have sacrificed stuff to get out here on the trail, and they're searching for something, and we kind of all are searching for something a little different. And that's kind of the beauty of it all.
Well, yeah, Ray, I enjoyed our talk. You and your wife, thank you. And I hope to get, this video sometime. I hope you get it made up. And in the meantime, if you have any photos or videos or contact information to add to this interview, we can do that if you send them to me. We can add them.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. I can send you some pictures.
Mm-hmm. Now, my editor he's been hacked, so it's going to take a while to get this back to you, but we'll get it back to you, the link, and we'll post it on Facebook, and
okay.
You'll be out there.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you.
All right. Have a
good luck. Yes.
Great day. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye to the missus.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.